Hello, this is Stu with Productive Computing. We are continuing our series about find mode with FileMaker from Claris. And in case you missed the first part of the series, you can check out that link here or in the description, because each course will build on the next. And be sure to subscribe so that you are notified of the final videos in this series. Thanks for watching. Let's dig in. Continuing on with our little testing app, we're going to move on to basic operators. And these are basic, not by FileMaker's definition necessarily. These are more of the most common ones that are used. We'll go through the other operators in a later video. This first one is just sticking with text. So we put in characters, either letters or numbers, and we are going to find text. So what do we find if we put in art? So we'll go to our layout, and I've made a couple of modifications here just so you can see how this works. This is the example set, so I've already set that, so I can always jump back to this by clicking this button. It'll just find this set of 16, so we can compare and contrast all of these. And if I type anything here, I can just clear it there. And this search is simply a script that I put together that will set this search field here. And it's going to take away everything in this found checkbox so that we know after we do our find in the calculated field here, then we're going to set all of those to 1 so we know which ones were found and which ones weren't. So this calculated field here is simply just the name first with a space and the name last. So very simple, but I thought it would be an easier way to take a look at how some of these work. So we're just going to type in art, and we will click this, and of this set here is kind of a pop quiz if you want to pause. Which ones will it find just by putting in art? So we'll click that, and it found all of these, but of our example set, we only have one. These other ones that it found are the rest of the 10,000 records that are here. So it found 15, but if we go to our example set here, it only found this one. So even though art is inside, it didn't find it because it starts with the word here. It's looking for, does this start with art? And it does not. Does this start with art? It does not. So it does not find that. And same here, which is not even, art isn't even a part of that one. So the same goes here. It's not starting with art here or here, so it doesn't find that. So the only one it does is right here, even though the whole field doesn't start with art. The words inside are being searched individually. So if you want to pause and just confirm whether you agree or not with this, then now is the time to do that. So we'll go back to our little description here, and it gives that definition. So do the same thing with stew, and if you look at these, it's not going to find beef stew because it doesn't start with stew. But what if we put 2 words in here? How is that going to work? So we'll clear that, and we'll just type in stew height and do our search. Go back to our example set. It did not find this one because stew is not a part of it. It found this because it starts with stew, so that matches here. This one does not, nor this one. And this one has stew, but it doesn't start with heights, so it's not going to find that, and so on. So this hopefully gives you a better understanding of how that works. Even if there's words in between, it's okay because it found this word and this word in the same field, which is what it's looking for here. Next is one of my personal favorites, the asterisk. This is the non-empty wildcard. And this is looking for anything that is in there. Doesn't matter what it is. So we'll put that there, and all records have something in the first name field. But if we put it in the birthday field, then there are 19 records that do not. So we hit the toggle, and all of these with the control down arrow, those are all empty. So we can toggle that, or we could have combined the asterisk with the omit and done the perform find and found those 19. So there's a lot of ways you can use this when you have that omit in place. But what if we put a letter with the asterisk? So let's go to our options here, and you may pause just to see which of these will it find. So we'll do our find, and there is our found set. Notice it did not find this one because the word does not start with an S. It has an S, but there's something before it. And the same thing goes for this one. It starts with an E, and that one starts with an E. So the rest of these have a word that starts with S, so that's why it found those. But what if we put the asterisk on the other side of the S, and we do our find? Let's look at our results. And this time it only has ones that end in S. There, there, there. And this one kind of ends in an S. The word ends in an S. But how about if we put an asterisk on either side of the S? And as you might have guessed, it found all of them, because now it doesn't matter what's in front, it doesn't matter what's after. It just needs to know, is there an S somewhere in this field? And then the last test would be if you have a letter on either side of the asterisk, and we'll click find. We'll go to our found set, and now it's looking for any words that have an S and anything in between the S and the T. So here there is an S and there is a T, but there's something after the T here. So this one doesn't count. It needs a word that starts with S and ends with T. This doesn't start with S. This doesn't start with S. This starts with S, but we have that U again. There's the U and doesn't start with an S. This starts with an S, but doesn't end with a T. But notice it found this one. Even though there aren't any characters between it, it does start with an S and end with a T. So all very fascinating things that you can do when you combine the asterisk with the characters. The equal sign is another very popular one, and this is finding empty fields, which we did that previously by putting an asterisk here. But if we just put an equal sign in there and hit enter, those same 19 come up because nothing is in there. So it will find that empty field if it's by itself. If you put characters with it, then it's going to look for a match of the word in the field. So if we put in equals stew, in our list over here, what are we going to find in all of these? Will it find the steward, or is it only going to find stew? So we'll do our search, go back to our found set. Here it found there's a stew, and there's a stew, but the other ones did not count because they did not equal stew. So even if it's the second word in there, it's comparing by words. So let's look again at our equal set. If we put in two equals in the same field, then it's going to look for both words that equal just that. So we'll come back and we'll do our search, and notice that the words stew and height are in each of these. Even if there's something in between, it treats these individually out of our entire found set. Next, we are going to move on to the double equals. And in this instance, it is going to need to exactly match the entire contents of the field. So when we put in double equals stew, it's not case sensitive, but it's not going to find if there's something else in the field as well. So let's just test that one. We can get rid of that part and we'll put in the other equals. We'll do our find, and it didn't find anything in there. So we'll cancel that. And that's because, remember, it's looking in this field right here, and none of them match exactly, just stew. This has this in it also, and this has all of this in it, and this has all of this in it. So the whole field does not exactly match this. Now, if we change this and we copy that, and let's do a find and paste that in here, and we're only searching in the first name, now it does find just stew, but when we search here, it's not going to find it because of the two words. You can also put in two words here or multiple words, and it's going to look for this entire phrase, but this time it's going to have to be in order. So let's just verify that exactly equals stew height. We'll do our find, and it didn't find anything. So let's look at our list here. It should have found this, except this has two spaces in it. There's an extra space right here. So if we take that space out and then we do our find, now it found it because this exactly equals this. So this is where the trim and the trim all can be very helpful in making sure that data is clean and ready for good use. So let's go to our quotes, and this may not be used quite as often, but it can be very helpful, especially if you're looking for a phrase that has punctuation, like spaces and any punctuation at all, but it's going to look for the literal text. So in this instance, it is going to find these beginning words again, but not this. And when we put the phrase here, it is going to find the full phrase, but not if something else is outside of that, like an extra space. So we can test that, and we'll get rid of the equals and put in the quotes. And now we can do our find, and no records matched because we had this extra space here. So we'll get rid of that space and do our find, and now we are back to finding the proper text. Very handy if you have a long set of words that you want in the exact order that it needs to be in, because if you notice, if you look at our set here, it did not find this one because it's looking for this order here, and this one was out of order, so it's not doing individual words there. Next, we are combining the asterisk and the quotes. Again, not quite used as often, but quotes and asterisks are used often, so why not see what happens with both of them? So what are we going to find if we put in this phrase? So we're going to replace this with art and put in our asterisk. And of all of these, which ones will it find? It's looking in this field right here. So we'll do our find and go back to our set, and it may be helpful to sort here just to see if that gives us any other insight. So these have height, but not all by itself. These have other things after it, so none of those are found. But how about this one where it has this TSU is in front of this? So art height is all right here, and they don't care what else is before it. So this works, that one works, there's art height, and so on and so forth. So that can be helpful, again, if you don't know how it starts, or maybe there's other words you aren't sure about. That can be very helpful as well. Lastly, we have our greater than and less than signs. Typically, you use these with numbers and dates, but did you know you could use them with text also? So you can have less than T, greater than or equal to R, greater than st, so multiple characters can be there. So let's just test one of these. We'll do less than t. We'll do a search and go back to our set, and all of them were found. So let's sort these, and notice that here all of these start with an S, M, H. So all these are less than t. This one is not less than t, but H is. So that is in this field because all the search is done here. So if we change this to an S, for example, and we'll go back to our set, now we do not have ST, because if we sorted this, S is up here and ST is here. Well, we want less than S, and this is sorting in this field, so it has an H. So that's why this one is found here. So let's go to a G, for example, and we'll do our search, see our found set, and none of them do except these three because we have a word starting with E, A, and E. You can also do less than or equal to E. So we'll try that. And the only one that shows up is art. These don't count because there's a word there. If we take out the Stewart part and we try this again, go back to our found set, now it is there because it is equal to E. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you have some different ideas of using these operators and combining them. In future videos, we'll go over some more advanced options and even the quick find. So be sure to like and subscribe to be notified when that happens. I hope this makes your computing more productive. Thanks for watching.